Hello, it's John here from UniTasterDays and welcome to this UniTaster On Demand event today, where we're going to be looking at creative courses, but concentrating in this video on interview tips and also portfolio tips. So if you're watching this interested in a creative course, but worried about how you are going to cope when it comes to an interview or how you're going to put a portfolio together, this video will be really useful for you. I'm delighted to be joined by Florence, joining us from Plymouth College of Art. And Florence is going to provide all the tips as far as this session goes. Over to you, please, Florence.
Welcome, everyone. My name's Florence and I work within the outreach team here at Plymouth College of Art. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about interviews. So I'll give you some top tips on interviews. I'll give some questions that could be asked and how to kind of answer those as well. And I'll talk about portfolios. So when you apply for a creative course at university or college level, they will ask for a portfolio. So I will go through some top tips on what you need to create, what you need to think about when you start collating your portfolio, and how you can talk about your work at the end. So hopefully at the end of this presentation, you would have gained some top tips, and you can go away and you can apply those to your portfolios and your interviews as well. So to start off with, what is a portfolio? So some of you guys who are watching this, you might have already started about thinking about what you want to put in your portfolio, or you might already have a selection or a collation of work put aside already that you know that you want to put this in your portfolio. But some of you who are watching this are totally starting from scratch, and that's completely fine. But a portfolio basically is a collection of your work, and it's a collection of your art and design work, which shows skills and it shows your ideas. And it's all of these skills and ideas that you've developed over a period of time. So we usually say have work in your portfolio that you've done within the past 2 years that you've done at school. You could have also gone to art or design classes outside of school as well. And if you've created work throughout that as well, then again, you can put that into your portfolio. But basically, it is a collection of your work that demonstrates your creativity. It also demonstrates your personality. So when I say that, it demonstrates who you are, what mediums you enjoy working in, and your future ambitions. And again, it shows your abilities and your commitment to the creative course that you've decided to study. So just as a whole, it's a really nice way of illustrating all your artwork, all your ideas, and all your skills. And then, as I mentioned, the interview stage, when you go to an interview, they will ask for you to then present your portfolio, and you will bring along this and present it as well. So nice to mention here just quickly is a portfolio can take form in any format. So it doesn't have to be just in a sketchbook. That's totally fine if it is in a sketchbook, but you can even do it on social media. So I know some people who have social media pages that are dedicated to their art and design work, and they've used each tile and uploaded that with a piece of work. And then they've used the comments and the tag section below to do annotation and to promote their work and to talk about it that way. You can even do it through websites. There's lots of free websites that you can go onto nowadays, and you can create your own kind of website for your work, and you can collate that and upload photos and write annotations. And again, that's another really nice way of presenting and showcasing your work. So I would definitely say research, have a look out there, and see different ways that you can present your portfolio. So starting from scratch, as I mentioned, some of you guys might have work already that you've got ready to put in your portfolio, or you might not have any work at all. So it doesn't matter if you haven't got any work at the moment. This is kind of like the really nice fun stage for you guys to start thinking about what you want to put in your portfolio. So what we've done on this slide is we've just listed 3 things for you guys just to think about in terms of how you would start creating new work to put into your portfolio. And then this collection of work can be done through drawing, it can be done through photographs, sculptures, films. It could be anything to include the medium that you work in. So have a think about the medium that you enjoy working in the most, and then kind of start with these 3 ideas and kind of go from there and just experiment and have fun, really. So we've begin with mind mapping. So again, begin with just noting down all the ideas, noting down things that you really enjoy working with. Note down artists that really inspire you, or there might be certain themes that really inspire you. Again, I would encourage you to write all those down, just so you've got all your ideas on a piece of paper, and then you can work from that as a starting point. And again, doing some research. So research into artists that inspire you, read books and go online, look at YouTube videos and video content, and just kind of work out what other artists are doing out there, what mediums and techniques they're working with, and could you do that? Is that something you want to look more into? So just do some research around that. And again, as I mentioned, it's time just to experiment. So have fun with all these ideas that you've come up with and create and explore and make different pieces of artwork. And then the idea of this is then hopefully you'll produce pieces of art and design work that you're really proud of and you'll want to put that into your portfolio. So on this slide, we've put some buzzwords. So these are words that we've put down. So feel free if you guys wanted to take a photo of this screen and then you can come back and refer to it later. But basically, these are words just to help start you think about your portfolio, your ideas, and it's kind of just a generating tool. So you can make your own sheet of this if you wanted to. So you can make your own sheet of buzzwords. Think about, again, as I mentioned, write down different themes, different mediums, different artists on a piece of paper, or you can write it on your laptop. But these buzzwords are just there for you to refer to if you get a little bit stuck, and they can just help you plan and prepare, and they can just help you just be a bit more inspired and generate lots of lovely new ideas. So you might be thinking, what can I include in my portfolio? You might have lots of different mediums that you enjoy working in, or you might just have one specific one. So you might just be really interested in illustration, but you might be interested in moving image and illustration as well. So I would really encourage you to put everything that you're interested in doing in your portfolio. So when I say that, I mean put a nice mixture of work into your portfolio, just to show all your transferable skills and to show everything that you really enjoy working with and your commitment to the creative course that you've applied to study for. So again, we've put research and influences. So in your portfolio, you can definitely put down who influences you and where you've got your art and design ideas from. So you can write down if there's a certain magazine or there's a certain museum that really inspires you, then you can write down some notations around your artwork just to show where that idea came from and your research behind that as well. So objects of interesting textures. So if you've got some objects that are 3D sculptures or they've got lots of texture and interesting forms and colours on them, then you can either take photos of this work. So when I say this, you can, at home, you can set up a kind of your own DIY photo shoots where you can have A3 white paper, and sometimes you could just put it on the table, an A3 piece of paper, and then you can put an A3 piece of paper behind it as well. And then you can place the object in the middle, and then you can either use your phone or you can, if you've got a camera, that's great. And you can take photos of that. And I would say zoom in onto the piece of work. So if it's got really nice texture, I would zoom on into the texture and take some nice photos of that as well, because you want to show the piece of artwork in its best light. And again, by you taking photos of that work, again, you're showing all these different transferable skills that you've got. So you've got your 3D sculpture of making it, there's one skill. And then again, you've used your initiative to take photos of that work as well, to present it and market it. And again, that's another skill to show, which is really great. So if you guys are interested in film, video, game, animation, anything that has a moving image or has lots of multimedia and is digital, and you don't know how to showcase that in your portfolio, I would again highly recommend you guys definitely including all your storyboards. So all the work that you've done prior to your final outcome of a moving image or a film, you highly likely that you have done storyboards, you've done sketches, you've come up with ideas. So I would definitely say include those in your portfolio. But when it comes to showing moving images such as videos and animations that have got moving characters in them, then again, you can definitely download these to YouTube. So you can set up a YouTube page or you can set up a Vimeo page, and you can then download that through onto your memory stick, or you can put it onto a website. So that's just another idea of you showcasing your work with moving images, because you can't really print that off and show it in a sketchbook. Just think about showing it digitally maybe. And again, you can send that to the academic or the person who's interviewing you prior to your interview, and they can have a look at that before you arrive. And again, I've mentioned craft and 3-dimensional work. So that is work that you've got that's quite large sculptures, and maybe you can't show it properly if you've got an interview. If you've got to take it on the train or you're having an interview online, you can't show it properly, then again, definitely take photos of it, of its textures and its colours, and present it again through that format as well. And as you can notice at the bottom, we've put diagrams and notations. So we've put this because it's a really nice thing to add is when you are going through your portfolio and you're collating all your work, you can definitely put down those buzzwords that we referred to earlier in the slides. You could put down some buzzwords. So again, if you worked with a certain color or you worked with a certain paint, so if you worked with acrylic mainly for that piece of design work, then you can definitely put the buzzword, written it down, either written or digitally, you could put it next to that piece of work. And we say this is because when you go to interview, you are talking through your work and the interviewer is not going to ask you to talk about all your pieces of work in your portfolio, but they might pinpoint one for you to talk about, and you might get a bit stuck or you just can't really remember exactly what the process was for that piece of artwork. So having those buzzwords around there will encourage you to talk about it more in depth, and will just give you a nice little prompt really. So that's just a nice little tip if you guys wanted to do that as well. And we also say as well that kind of keep your portfolio to 20 to 30 pieces. And that may seem like a lot of work to some of you, or not as much to many, but just 20 to 30 pieces is a nice amount for a portfolio really. So why do you think having a portfolio is important? So just have a think about why you think having a portfolio is important, who needs to see it, why do they need to see it, and what can you do with a portfolio after you've made it? So here, a portfolio is important because it allows you to show and not just to tell. So you can talk about your work confidently, but again, you really want to show your work. You really want to show the interviewer what you've made and what you've produced and why you're really passionate about it. And it definitely shows all your efforts and your creations over time. So you can see I've pinpointed on the slides, definitely it's there to showcase your artwork, and it allows universities to familiarise themselves with yourself and your interests and your creative intent. It definitely adds a level of professionalism to your art practice. So if you then decide to then study at degree level on a creative course, after that you then might want to go into working in the creative industries. Again, they might ask you to produce a portfolio when you go to interview. So you would already have all your work collated from your studies, and you would have it in a nice portfolio format, and you'd be ready then to present. And again, it's evidence of your success and failures. So we say that because although we want you to put work in the portfolio that you're really, really proud of, we also want you to put a couple pieces of work that maybe didn't go so well, or pieces of work that you're not 100% happy with. And you may think, oh, I don't want to put those in because they don't show my work in the best light. But we do encourage you to put those pieces of work in because it allows you to talk about how you overcame that and then what you did afterwards to improve. So it's kind of just showing your self-development and your thinking skills of how you can continue to improve your work. So that section's about portfolios and some top tips. So I hope you did gather some tips there that you can take away after this presentation and you can use at home. But now we're just going to talk about the interview and discussion. And you can see that I've put down interview/discussion because although it's an interview and you're going to an interview to kind of persuade the interviewer that you're great for this course, it is a very informal interview. So a discussion is kind of what it is. It's a nice conversation for you to have with an academic on your creative course of choice and for you to ask questions as well about the course. So here we've just noted down some things about the interview process. So it will often be very relaxed and very informal, as I said, and the staff will sit down with you and they'll ask questions about your work. Again, you'll bring your portfolio in and you'll show your portfolio. So they'll ask about certain pieces of work in your portfolio. Just a nice tip here is that they're not going to ask you about every single piece of work in your portfolio. They will have a flick through and then they'll pinpoint ones out. So just be prepared that you don't know which ones they're gonna choose for you to talk about. So just make sure that you're prepared to talk about each piece of work that you've put in your portfolio. And again, they'll talk about things as well as your interests and your hobbies. So come prepared to talk about that as well. And come prepared to talk about your career plans and your future ambitions. So don't worry if you don't know what you want to do yet after studying, but if you have something in mind, then again, it's really great to talk about that. And then obviously this is an opportunity for you guys to then persuade the interviewee why you would make a really excellent student. So do your research on the course that you've chosen to study, have a look at current student work and modules, and as well, I'd advise you to come prepared with your own questions. So not many, 1 or 2 questions, just come prepared and ask the interviewer some questions as well. So things to think about for an interview. So these are in terms of when you are going through your portfolio work. So when an academic has asked you to talk about a certain piece of work in your portfolio, kind of start off and talk about the idea behind it. So talk about the idea that inspired you, who inspired you, and what you did to kind of come up with the final outcome. Then storytelling, so talk about your processes, what mediums, techniques you used, and again, talk about any challenges that you faced. And again, how did you overcome those challenges? Definitely talk about that. And then talk about the end result. So how you got to the end result of the final art piece. And again, what were you hoping to achieve, and did you achieve that? And maybe talk about that you might have future plans for that artwork as well. So it might have gone on to another series of artwork that you've made. So again, talk about that as well. So things that you might get asked to interview. So these are just some questions that you may get asked. They're not set in stone, so you definitely won't. These aren't 100% questions that you will get asked. But I just thought it's nice to put these down to start thinking about how you would answer these questions. So again, feel free to take a picture of this, and then with family and friends, ask them to ask the questions to you. And then you can just start practicing about how you would respond and what you would say. So who and what inspires your work? What was the journey of the design process? What worked? And again, what didn't work? What are the topics you're most passionate about and how they inspire your work? And what mediums do you enjoy working in the most? So again, just practice how you'd answer those questions. And it's a good practicing tool just so you feel a bit more prepared when you go to interview. So last slide here is just some top tips altogether around interviews and portfolios. So definitely critique, reflect, and evaluate your own work. Again, that just makes it's just a good exercise to do. So when someone asks you to talk about it, you just feel a bit more prepared to talk about it in more depth. Be selective and narrow down your choices. So as you remember, we said put 20 to 30 pieces in your portfolio. So really be selective about the ones that you really want to choose and the ones that you really are proud of. Include a broad range of pieces. So if you work with different mediums and techniques, try and include all those just to showcase all your skills and everything that you're interested in. And again, showcasing your areas of strengths, and definitely reflect upon your weaknesses and failures. So a couple of pieces that you're not so happy about, just to show and evidence how you overcame this and what you did to improve. So I hope that this presentation was helpful and you managed to gather some top tips that you can take away from this, and you just feel maybe slightly a bit more prepared when it comes to making your own portfolio and when you go to interview as well. So thank you for listening today. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact and reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you do have.